Hey guys, this is Oren Productions, aka 94673, and I am back in Wilder Bahadur story part 2. What just happened is that we, we made the decision whether or not, we would want to be carried by Bahadur, but it was kind of an important decision, cause, like, it kind of decided whether or not we're gonna act like he's still serving us, or if we're gonna be more equal, and I chose not to be carried because I am not really his mistress any longer. Right. No, thank you, I can walk. Bahadur hesitates, clearly uncomfortable. It is not an easy journey. I stare him down and he soon relents. We walk on. I'm not sure if I kind of feel like he maybe would want oh, but if I can't serve you as a mistress, I don't know what to do with my life, but nope, you're not a slave anymore. No. We walk on. 10 minutes later. Are you sure you wouldn't rather I carried you? I'm fine, thank you. Another 10 minutes. My lady, your feet must be tired. Allow me to... No, thank you. We all got... I'm sorry for laughing. He just doesn't know what to do with himself when he is not helping, and in a way, that's kind of sad. We walk on in much the same way for a good few hours. Finally, I have to admit to myself that my feet are getting very sore. Time for a rest, my lady. This I do not protest. We sit in the sand, taking shelter under a cluster of rocks forming an overhang. The protection feels good, but the silence is somehow much more uncomfortable now that we're no longer on the move. Bahadur. Yes. I said his name without thinking, but it turns out there is something on my mind, and it takes its chance to slip out. Do you think I killed the Shah? He wasn't there when I found the body. I could have been lying for all he knew. No. If he answers without hesitation. I look into his eyes, and they meet mine with confidence. I believe him. Do you think Ran killed him? It's possible. He hesitates a little longer over that one. Do you think Ran killed him? No. No, I don't think he did. You have a lot of faith in him. Bahadur sounds disapproving. No doubt he remembered that night in my bedroom. I shrug. I can't explain it. I just don't think he's the killer. We were only supposed to rest for a short time, but we're both exhausted from our trek through the desert. And from everything else. When I fall asleep, Bahadur doesn't protest. He's too busy falling asleep himself. Oh no. Too tired to dream, my uncle would say. But I do dream. Or more like I remember. The first time I ran away from home was a very different experience. For one, I didn't make it out of the villa. I rushed around my bedroom, flinging things into a bag. Useless, unhelpful things, but they were all that I owned. Tears had dried on my cheeks and the backs of my hands. The backs of my hands making the skin feel tight and raw. Aunt Lamia's words at dinner earlier that evening kept circling in my head. We needn't persist with that silly tradition, you know. I can have arranged for you to take your meals in your bedroom. Little 7-year-old me with my big watery eyes that only seemed to make my aunt more angry. You don't like eating together, Auntie? I don't see much point to it when Makram isn't here. And for the last time, please desist with that that vile nickname. I am your Aunt Lamia, and you will address me with respect. Yes, Aunt Lamia, I'm sorry. A weary sigh. Honestly, Makram never told me it would be like this. The echo of her disappointed voice brought fresh tears, retreating old tracks, and I stuffed the next item into the bag with more force than intended. Probably sad, darling. Probably sad. Come on, click. I was so sad, so heartbroken. If I had hoped that, given time, my aunt might warm to me, might come to see me for more than a burden, to care for me, well, And Uncle Makram, the one person in the world who loved me like a father was never home. Always busy, always away. In that moment I decided I would not take the loneliness any longer. I slung the bag over my back and headed for the window. I was leaving. That was when Bahadur walked into the room. He looked to me, the bag, the window. His eyes widened for a moment, then narrowed with an affectionate sort of exasperation. I had thought you might be feeling upset, my lady. I held the bag behind my back, protecting in case he reached out his hand to take it. Do not try to stop me, Bahadur. Bahadur didn't reply. Neither did he advance. It is raining tonight. Do you have a coat? I'm not a baby. A little rain doesn't bother me. My cheeks puffed up, my 7-year-old pride wounded. Where will you go? I didn't know. I cannot tell you. You would go straight to Aunt Lamia. Saying her name made my voice tremble and break, and another tear slipped down my face. Wiping at it furiously, I turned back to the window and opened it to climb through. My hands on the sill, Bahadur spoke softly behind me. I would miss you very much. Liar! No one here would miss me. This place it's not my home, not really. A silence followed, but I still lingered at the window. My legs wouldn't move. Finally, Bahadur spoke again. It is not my home either. I turned to face him, my voice small around the words. Where is your home? His brows pinched together as he slowly, carefully tried to express his thoughts. I do not have one, not the kind of home of which you speak. This villa is all I have. I was stunned. Never before had I considered that Bahadur would feel that way, or that he would dare speak his feelings out loud, that we would feel the same. He continued. But if you were not here, it would feel 100 times less like a home than before. His eyes started to twinkle, a little cheeky. Would you really abandon me, my lady? The bag dropped to the floor, and I stepped away from the window towards him. Hugs! Bah! I threw myself into his arms. He caught me and lifted me off the ground as if I weighed nothing. When he spoke, his voice was soft and warm. Let's make this a home, shall we? Oh, I can't. I can't say now, all these years on, that either of us entirely succeeded at that. But from that day, I knew I had someone at that villa who cared for me. True and constant. 2 things I noticed when awake. Firstly, it's light. We slept until morning. Secondly, we are not alone. Good morning. Shite! 4 men stand over us, armed with spears and swords and wearing the uniforms of Hamza's guards. Bahadur is on his feet immediately, shielding me from them. Stand down, Jinn, and you should be given a quick death. Bahadur doesn't budge. Boy, run back and fetch Captain Hamza. The youngest of the men nods and starts running. This is great. This'll be a promotion for sure. And here I thought scouting duty was a crap detail. Never thought we'd run right across him. Bahadur still stands before me, protective but unsure of what course of action to take. Will he overpower 3 men at once? I'm not sure. Sure looks capable. One soldier gives him a long, considering look. His lips curl. You know, I have heard things about you. Bahadur, ain't it? They say you're strong. You look it, but the brute strength of a dumb animal is hardly the same as years of honed talent. What? Don't tell me you think you could beat the beast. Are you insulting my skill? No, come on, calm down. You, Jinn, shall we test my theory? The soldiers seem to have all forgotten about me, fixed as they are on Bahadur. Bahadur did have something of a reputation among my father's circles. He used to be a gladiator before he became a ballet? I don't know the full story behind it, but I know the unconventional shift from fighter to servant did seem to intrigue some people. Or insult them, evidently. The red-faced, blustery soldier indicates that the 2 others should stand back and hold. Come on then, let's see if you remember how to do this. He slashes at Bahadur with his sword. The blade is quick, but Bahadur is quicker. He steps out of the way, then advances, trying to knock the sword from a man's hands. The soldier dodges and slashes again. Bahadur barely manages to leap back in time. Not bad. Not great, but not bad. Bahadur doesn't rise to the taunting. His eyes are clear and calm as always. He seems to be more going through the motions of combat rather than actually trying to cause harm. The blade lashes out once more, this time managing to catch Bahadur on the arm. Bahadur! It's not a deep cut, but my heart seizes at the sight of the blood. God's above, is this all he is? This is boring. What a disappointment. Tired of the failed display of, The men turn their attention to me. Better separate them. Grab the girl. No. We're not asking, Jinn. Stand down and give us the girl. Suddenly, a fire lights in Bahadur's eyes. He lunges forward in a blur, kicking the first soldier's legs out from beneath him and sending him onto the back in the sand. Not skipping a beat, he takes the sword from his own hands, and brings the hilt down to the man's face. The soldier cries out, then goes still. The sword drops from Bahadur's grasp onto the ground. Another of them steps forward, full of fury. He tries to jab with his spear, but Bahadur sidesteps and blows the blow and then closes his fist around the soldier's hand. He screams and drops the spear. When Bahadur releases him, the man stumbles back, falls, cradling his bloody hand against his chest. Third and final soldier hesitates, now afraid, and Bahadur takes this chance. Lifting me in his arms, he starts to run. You should have knocked him out. Finally, leaping into action, the third soldier gives chase and manages to latch a hand around Bahadur's raising his sword to strike, either at Bahadur or me. But Bahadur's too strong. He holds me with one arm and uses his free hand to grab the soldier's wrist, twisting it and sending the blade plunging into the man's own thigh. The soldier howls and relents, falling into the sand like his comrades before him. Bahadur doesn't hesitate a moment longer. He turns and runs at a speed that no human could hope to match, and soon leaves Hamza's men far behind. They aren't dead. I glance up at Bahadur's face. He should be concentrating on running, but it seems important to him that I know this. I didn't kill them. They're just incapacitated. Damn it. I nod and hold on tightly. I know. This seemed to appease Bahadur, who turns his attention back to our escape. Picking up, oh fuck. I don't even notice the changing. Oh, now we're going into the Jinn lands. This is gonna be a bad, dangerous thing. Looking forward to it. I don't even notice the changing landscape until we're already heading uphill. Bahadur gradually starts to slow until we're finally moving at barely more than a brisk walk. Aren't they behind us? They won't follow us up here. The second of relief that rises within me is soon drowned by a terrible realization. We're heading up the western hills. Yes. Bahadur lowers me to the ground. We will be safe up here. Safe? Everything I've ever read or heard about the hills have made them seem far less safe. Then why won't Hamza's men follow us up here? Bahadur drops into a kneel. My lady, I will protect you from soldiers or from anything else. It's the anything else that concerns me, but I suppose beggars can't be choosers. Very well, lead on. Of course. Bahadur nods, serious as ever, and we continue up the slope, towards the tree line that makes the border between the lands of humans and the land of the wild Jinn. Whatever comes, I trust him to protect me. I do. What he doesn't expect is that we're gonna protect him as well! I have no other choice. Okay, we're not the most capable, but I'm sure we can make do. Chapter 2. Or 2, whatever you prefer. I have to admit, it is beautiful up here. The grass is so green, the flowers so vibrant. We're heading towards a forest so lush it looks almost unreal, like an illustration in one of my books. While I wonder at the new landscape, Bahadur acts with not the least bit of whimsy. He forges ahead with stern determination, only taking his eyes off the way ahead to glance back down and confirm that Hamza and his men are truly giving up the chase. Stay close, my lady. As if he needs to tell me. Eventually, once he is sure that we're not being followed, Bahadur's pace relaxes. The flowers. The wildflowers are very pretty. Oh yeah, they are. Smooth. You couldn't see flowers like this in Sia. Is he trying to give me a silver lining? Elegant. They are beautiful. Yes, I'm glad to have seen them. Oh, good. In truth, I don't know why I'm rambling about flowers. I just missed your smile, my lady. Not much of a lady anymore. Once we're past the tree line, we stop for a while. I take the opportunity to inspect Bahadur's arm. The cut is shallow, but encrusted with blood and sand. Let me clean it. There's no need, I can't. Without waiting for the rest of the protest, I spill some water from the water skin and wash away the dirt around the wound. No. You have to look after yourself too, Bahadur. My life isn't the only one to think about. Once I am done rinsing the wound, my hand remains on his arm. His skin is warm beneath my palm. I turn my face up and to find his eyes on me. With a start, Bahadur looks away. His face is red and my own cheeks begin to heat in return. I don't even know why. Things have never been this awkward between us before. Gurgle. My stomach chimes in, reminding me how long ago I last ate. I'd feel more embarrassed, but then Bahadur's stomach joins the chorus. Bahadur gives me an apologetic smile. What is that? I point to some high-hanging fruit on a nearby tree. They're mangoes, I think. One moment. With that, Bahadur is half way up the tree before I can even find the word to question the situation. One branch is a little too thin and snaps under his foot. He jerks down, but quickly steadies himself on a sturdier branch. Bahadur, I could climb. That won't be necessary, my lady. But I'm lighter. Got you. Bahadur is now high enough to start collecting the fruit. While I crane my neck and watch him, I am not watching the forest, so I don't see the shadow stepping out in front of me until it's already far too late. Let me guess. A wild Jinn. There we go. He is muscular, nearly naked, and carrying a spear, and he looks very unhappy to see me. A frightening combination, really. I want to call out to Bahadur above me, but the Jinn's spear sort of discourages any sudden noises or movements. As he growls at me in a language I can't understand, he jabs his spear, backing me against the trunk of a tree. No, I'm sorry. Suddenly, Bahadur drops from above, landing directly on top of the wild Jinn, knocking him over, leaving him reeling. The Jinn clambers to his feet, but when he gets his first good look at Bahadur, his confidence seems to waver. Spitting out what undoubtedly is a foul insult, he turns and runs. Go! He practically scampers away. I let out a breath. Thank you. Not at all. I should have been more vigilant. Bahadur hands me a slightly bruised but still mouth-watering mango. Where's yours? Bahadur opens a palm to slow a completely crushed ex-fruit. He looks untroubled. Never mind. Nope. Here, you can have this one. No, my lady, that is yours. Well, we can share it at least. Thank you for the thought, but I would rather you eat all of it. We shouldn't linger here, my lady. You'll have to eat and walk, I'm afraid. We go up further into the forest, the darkness growing deeper. I stumble over a root, and Bahadur is there at my elbow, guiding me along. You know, that whole mango scene just reminded me of something. At my old school, I guess, I don't really know the equivalent, but I guess it'd be kind of an elementary school or something. Grade school, I don't know what that's called. But, when I was 10, maybe, there was this tree that would carry those, I don't know what they're called in English, but those tiny yellow plums that you can eat. And that tree was kind of hanging outside the railing of the school, so it was actually really dangerous to climb in it. But every kind of spring, summer, me and my friends would go there to climb it to get some of the plums. They were really good, actually. And gathering food for yourself felt really cool. So we were climbing, and I just remember how every time I grab one and have it in one hand and every time I tried to reach for another, I would squeeze too hard with the other hand and squash him, so we would never actually get any. And that's a fun little story that reminded me of. I stumble over a root. Don't know why I just remembered that, but I stumble over a root and Bahadur is there at my elbow, guiding me along. We walk for a long time. Finally, oh, I don't think I've seen this before. Maybe I have. We emerge into the light. I gasp. While almost any sight would have been welcome after that journey through the dark, this is incredible. Look, the river! Oh, please let there be a hot spring scene. Please let there be a hot spring scene. I'm waiting for the hot spring music. It's still the best. Sorry. After the events of the past couple of days, I feel filthy and with sweat. The water looks so clear and cold and inviting. Bahadur gives me a knowing look. I understand your feelings, my lady, but... Oh, I suppose we don't have time to stop here. I see. Oh, very well. But we mustn't linger too long. Yes, I understood. I barely hear him already rustling towards the river and shedding my clothes. By the time I'm naked and slipping into the water, Bahadur is standing at the river's edge, facing away from me. He keeps watch while I bathe. Teeth watched on the tree, eyes fixed on the tree line. A perfect gentleman. I don't know. Flirty, but splashing. Flirt, but splash. Oh no. Splash. Taking advantage of his attention being focused elsewhere, I slice my hand through the water and splash his back. He flinches, but otherwise ignores what just happened. Not so easily deterred, I splash him again, harder. My lady, really. He may be chastising me, but there's nothing severe in his tone, and though he shakes his head at my childishness, I catch the hint of a smile on his turned-away face. Feels very nostalgic all of a sudden. Bahadur, the stoic valet, I don't even know what that is, indulging the whims of his master's flighty niece. A memory rises to the surface, and I indulge in it while I bathe. It was another of Aunt Lamya's dreaded parties. I had not been promised to the Shah, so she had thrown herself headlong into hunting down any and all potential suitors who might elevate our family's standing. Apart from the nights like these, I never socialized. I had no friends, no one to talk to. Instead, I was gawped at and whispered about by the guests. I felt like a glass statue and acted the part of one. It was Bahadur who found me hiding in a corner of a disused room of the villa. Not a word, Bahadur. You wouldn't betray me, would you? Not if you allow me to hide with you, my lady. His eyes were laughing, but I could see the tired slant of his shoulders. And Lamia seems to be enjoying herself at least. I spoke in low tones, lest we be discovered. Mistress has certainly thrown herself into the role of matchmaker this evening. I shuddered. I dreaded to think what nobleman's son she had accosted. Now, 5 glasses of wine into the night. Romance. What a lot of rot, I declared with passion. Bahadur chuckled. I wouldn't know, my lady. No, neither would I suppose. I eyed Bahadur thoughtfully. Why is there so much flirt? Have you never wanted something like that? A relationship? He shook his head, smiling an easy smile. Such thing not for the likes of me, my lady. My heart gave a jerk. That is so sad. Bahadur's smile did not waver. He narrowed his eyes kindly. Do you think so? I admit, I never think on it. I felt like that couldn't possibly be true. That was when the door swung open. Uncle Makram was there, leveling a stern look our way. Bahadur, are you keeping my niece from the party? Bahadur didn't miss a beat. Apologies, master. I cried out over him, horrified. No, uncle, it was my fault. I was hiding and Bahadur found me. I still remember the eyes on both of us as we marched out of the room, back into the full horror of the party. Bahadur's face was bright red and mine was worse. I suppose he really had been indulging me against his better judgment all my life. Something brushes against my foot and tears my attention away from the past. Fish swim by just beneath the water, brushing against me. No sense of fear or instinct to avoid me. They move so slowly, it feels like I might actually be one to pick one right out of the river I think of Bahadur, who still hasn't eaten, and I think of what I know of the Jinn biology and how they can eat raw meat. Bahadur, do you like fish? Well enough, my lady. Could you eat one raw? Scales and all? Well, I prefer well-smoked salmon. But you could eat a raw fish. Yes. My lady, where's this line of questioning going? Catch it! I thrust out my hand at lightning speed. The fish is all scattered. I wasn't even close. I try not to feel too deflated. I try. Never mind. Are you nearly done bathing, my lady? The sooner we can leave the hills behind us, the better. Come on, try again. With reluctance, I pull myself out onto the river bank. Bahadur produces a blanket from his bag and passes it to me while still managing to keep his back upturned. I dry myself with the blanket and slip back into my clothes. Sensing the moment that I am once again decent, Bahadur's shoulders relax and he finally turns his face to me. Ready? I nod and we move on. We get 3 steps. Bahadur thrusts out his arm, simultaneously holding and shielding me. There, at the edge of the forest, emerges a familiar figure, followed by more. The wild Jinn is back, and he brought friends. They step out of the darkness of the trees, a few at a time, a seemingly never-ending army. Excuse me? I remember reading about Jinn tribes in the hills, how they are fiercely territorial and care nothing for human laws. Bahadur, stay behind me. Bahadur takes a step forward, hands raised in a sign of appeasement. One Jinn is ahead of the rest, large and scarred, and quite clearly the leader, or at least someone important. He carries no weapons, but he doesn't look like he needs one. As he gestures with his long, sharp claws, I can't help but swallow and wonder if he's ever killed anyone with his bare hands. Looks like he has. I am going to ask you once to back away. Bahadur's announcement does nothing. Clearly there's a language gap working against us here. Don't you know a little of the Jinn tongue? Go away or something at least? I was born and raised in Sia, my lady. I wouldn't even know how to say hello. The leader is upon us now, advancing slowly but with menace. At first his eyes are glued to me, but as he gets closer, his attention shifts to Bahadur. I will warn you once more, and then... The scarred Jinn isn't even listening. Instead he looks Bahadur up and down, eyes lingering on his muscular arms and shoulders. He darts in close, for an instant, sniffing at Bahadur and drawing back, eyes sharpening on whatever he smells. He's thrown an order back over his shoulder, and the rest of the tribe stops in their tracks. Then he points a sharp finger at Bahadur and backs up a few steps, dropping into a low, coiled stance. Really? Another person who's suddenly inexplicably obsessed with challenging Bahadur to a scrap? You should probably go. You don't have to do this, Bahadur. I think I may have to. Bahadur stepped forward, accepting the challenge. The scarred Jinn grins, pauses, then lunges. Bahadur sidesteps and spins just in time to avoid the point of his opponent's claws. The rest of the Jinn watch from where they stand. Some of them are cheering. This is a show, apparently. The fight goes much the same from the earlier match against the aggressive soldier. The scarred Jinn darts around him, lashing out in quick cuts, while Bahadur either dodges or endures them. The wild Jinn is enjoying himself. Another slash at the wound on Bahadur's arm, and the wound on Bahadur's arm is open again, deeper, spilling red. Bahadur flinches, then retaliates, swinging his right arm like a club. The scarred Jinn leaps back, grinning. He's trying to goad Bahadur into fighting properly, and it's working. Slowly, I see the change in him. The scarred Jinn attacks, then retreats. Bahadur follows, counterattacks, and attacks again. Bahadur slams his face into the Jinn's face, sending him flying. The Jinn gets to his feet, wipes the blood from his nose, and leaps upon Bahadur with a shout of rage. Bahadur! They're both a furious blur of claws and teeth and horns. Blood flies from someone and splashes hard across my cheek. Finally, they go still. The scarred Jinn on the ground and Bahadur is standing above him. They both pant and growl like animals. I've never seen Bahadur look like this. The scarred Jinn looks back at his followers and issues a command. The stillness lasts for one more instant, then is unleashed. All of the Jinn fall upon Bahadur. No, stop! Bahadur will be killed. The noise is deafening. Growls, yelps, roars, squeals, all rising to the sky. But Bahadur is not killed. He fights with a ferocity that I could have never imagined. It is only when a Jinn is sent skidding out of the fray to land at my feet, bloodied, broken, and on the cusp of death, that it truly hits me. Bahadur held back when he was fighting against humans. Now he is holding nothing back. One by one, the Jinn leave the fight. Some retreat, some are thrown on the ground or stay there. In the end, the scarred Jinn, who started everything, is the only opponent left standing. Bahadur wraps a giant hand around the scarred Jinn's neck and lifts it into the air. Exhausted, the Jinn can only feebly struggle against Bahadur's might. The rest of the tribe cries out weakly, but cannot hope to stop what is about to happen. Bahadur is going to kill him. Stop! Oh wait, I should have saved here. Definitely. This is the important choice. Bahadur, stop! Don't kill him! Bahadur flinches toward me for a moment, but there is no reason in his eyes. Bahadur, please! Slowly, I see him come back to himself. My lady. Dazed, he lowers the scarred Jinn to the ground and releases him, a little out of breath. The Bahadur I know is not a killer. The rest of the Jinn are stunned, but begin to stir. Come on! I take his hand in mine and lead him away. He follows, step heavy and slow, eyes unfocused. I feel dazed myself, but we cannot afford to wait for the Jinn tribe to recover. We must escape now. Here we go, Bahadur, this way! He says nothing and follows me into the forest. We walk for a long time without saying a word. Bahadur is injured, but we cannot stop yet. It's not safe. Hours pass. Twigs snap underfoot. Roots grasp at my ankles. I cannot see the sun, but surely it must be sinking by now. This is not the right way. What? the right way? Are you serious? Where have you been? Yeah, seriously though, she cannot hold it back. Where have you been, Bahadur? Which way was the right way and what was the wrong way? Bahadur! Shh. I go quiet. I think I hear what he hears. Sounds like thunder getting closer. No, not thunder. Pounding feet, snapping branches, roars of vengeance. This isn't a handful of Jinn from the river. This is more. A lot more. The rest of the tribe must... My lady, run! Bahadur is too wounded to fight. There is no other choice. We run through the trees, away from the noise and vibration of our pursuers. To get the right way and the wrong way, there's only one way now. Emerging into the night air, there's only one path open to us. Into the mountains? The thoughts of it strikes fear into me. Bahadur? Bahadur grimaces but pushes forward. Come, my lady. A chorus of war cries rise from the forest behind us, closer than ever. Oh god, an alarm is ringing. Sorry, give me a sec. Sorry about that. Okay. And okay. Okay. Into the mountains it is. Ooh, chapter 3. Morning comes. We walk in silence. There's a crunch of our footsteps, the blowing breeze, the distant call of birds, nothing else. But I stop myself. I still don't know what to say. And Bahadur certainly doesn't want to talk. Striding 3 steps ahead of me, his back is broad and so far away. What happened back there? My hands are still shaking. I didn't know he could look like that. People talk about Jinn and their wild blood, but Bahadur has always been so composed. Sometimes it was hard to remember that he wasn't human. Is this his true nature? If he'd been born out here, free, would he look more like the Bahadur who had fought so viciously back there? I don't feel afraid anymore, I feel complicated. I think I feel ashamed. How severely must we twist the nature of slave-raised Jinn and Sia to strip them of something so primal and true? If Bahadur was not wearing enchanted bands that suppressed his full power, gods! No wonder he's so upset. Even he must have been shocked by what he's capable of. I think we should talk to him, but I am gonna pause it because I think we're a little bit misunderstanding each other. Bahadur. We have to keep moving, my lady. He really doesn't want to talk. The least I can do is follow silently and give him time. We walk, and the slope is growing gradually steeper. My eyes drift from the stark, strangely beautiful landscape to the blue sky, to the small beads of sweat sliding down the back of Bahadur's neck. I wonder how far. The first sensation of something soft and fleshy beneath my sandal. I look down struck and watch the red and yellow striped snake sidewind out from underneath my shoe and across the path. The second sensation is agony. White hot fire leaks up my leg and I can't help but cry out. It bit me! For the first time ever since we left the hills behind, Bahadur turns to face me. My lady, what? Snake! Where? I trod on it! Instantly, Bahadur is by my side. Did it bite you? Yeah. I grit the word out through a wave of pain. Bahadur looks down at my ankle. He eyes the snake bite, startled, afraid. What color was it? The snake? Red and black. He sucks in a sharp breath. What? Is it bad? Is it deadly? I don't know. I don't know anything about snakes. What? Bahadur! I'm sorry, just take a seat there. I've never seen Bahadur so flustered or so informal. I do as he says and sit on a large rock by the side of the path. Forgive me, my lady. Before I can ask what he means, he's kneeling before me, my already swelling ankle in his hands. Yeah, you should suck the venom out quickly, but don't swallow it, like spit it out. He lowers his head, I gasp. Slipping a small knife I didn't know... he had from his belt, he doesn't hesitate before cutting right into my ankle. I don't even feel it over the rest of the pain. Instantly, a memory comes to me. I remember reading an account of an explorer who was bitten by a deadly cobra and survived by sucking the venom out of his own arm. I described the event to my aunt and uncle at dinner. Lamia had chastised me for bringing something so disgusting up at the table. Uncle Macram had told me that the entire thing was rubbish. A person couldn't extract venom by sucking it out. He called the explorer a charlatan and a drama monger. These are the thoughts swimming through my head as Bahadur puts his mouth at my ankle and starts to suck. Bahadur! I feel his teeth graze my skin as he pushes his mouth even tighter against my foot. Sucks harder, spits out, a mouthful of blood onto the ground before going back for more. Bahadur! When he's finally satisfied that he can extract nothing more, Bahadur withdraws. His eyes lock with mine. The throbbing in my foot is beginning to feel like a heartbeat, a pulse spreading throughout my whole body. Now that the panic is gone, Bahadur is no longer Bahadur. He's a man with his hands on my bare skin, his mouth stained with me, touching me in a way that he never has before. I can't be sure that I got all of the venom. Thank you. Thank you for trying. There is more I can do. Rest here, my lady. I don't know much about snake bites, but I have some knowledge of herbs and medicine. Bahadur disappears for a while, heading back down the mountain slope. I stay, perched on the slope, starting to shiver. Something strange is coursing through me. He returns as the sun sets, his bag bursting with various plants and roots. Before we lose the last of the light, he applies hibiscus leaves to the wound itself, to absorb the last of the poison, and gives me a savannah root to chew, for the pain, and a number of other little nifty remedies to get me through the night. Though he assures me that the night will be hard, I'm already beginning to shake, something like a fever taking hold. You will be fine, my lady. The last one of the venom is working its way out of you. By morning it will be gone. He doesn't know that. The certainty in his voice is entirely false and for my benefit. Be honest with me, please? Oh, stop, Bahadur. Admit it, you're clueless and terrified. You will be fine. Rest, my lady. I'll look after you tonight. Bahadur sits, resting against a tree on the edge of the path. Excuse me. I lean against him, trembling as the fever works its way through me. He lets me shake and shudder against him and does not move a muscle. It suddenly strikes me. This is the first time in many, many years that Bahadur has permitted such prolonged physical contact between us. First time since I was 8 years old, in fact. Something nasty twists in my stomach, and I do not think it's the poison. Gods, I remember that night as if it were yesterday. I was supposed to be in bed, but I couldn't sleep. I wanted someone to read me a bedtime story. Uncle Makram, if possible, though Bahadur would do. As I wandered the dark halls, I heard a strange noise coming from my aunt's and uncle's bedroom. I crept to the door, terribly curious, and peeked inside. I saw Aunt Lamia lying on the bed, Bahadur over her. His bare back strained, muscles rippling, his eyes were feral, his teeth were bared. He was naked, though that wasn't something I noted at the time. In that moment, I thought I knew exactly what was happening. Bahadur was attacking my aunt.
I know what's going on, right? But I can just imagine her going over with her tiny little fist and just patting him on the back.
I threw my tiny body at him, lashing out, only thinking of how to save Aunt Lamia. Bahadur practically leapt from the bed, bare hitting the far wall as I arraigned a pitiable, ineffective beating upon his waist. I remember the look in his eyes as he stared at me. I only recognized the horror and shame in them after the benefit of 10 years of hindsight. My uncle came running, the fury in his eyes as he took the scene only made my foolish little heart more certain that I had been right. Bahadur had done something truly terrible. I didn't think about the anger and embarrassment in Lamia's eyes as she looked at me. I didn't understand what she meant when she screamed at my uncle about loneliness and needs. But when I saw Bahadur the next morning, with fresh whip marks on his back peeking out from beneath his vest, when our eyes finally met and I heard the deep trembling sadness in his voice as he said, "Good morning, my lady," that was when I started to doubt. The puzzle pieces were fitted together all wrong, but I was too young and naive to rearrange them. Of course, now that I'm older, I've long since pieced it all together. Now I know my aunt was the only monster in that room. But from that day, Bahadur never let his hands touch me for more than a moment, ever again. He wouldn't pick me up during playtime or hold my hand as we walked through the gardens. Sometimes he would accidentally brush against me, then flinch away like he'd been scalded. I stopped calling him Baha. He was only ever Bahadur after that. I pressed closer against his chest, and he brings his arms out to encircle my shoulders. If nothing else, I'm grateful for the past few days, for giving me Bahadur's touch once again.
Both would suffice. I think I'm gonna say I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I feel Bahadur's voice rumbling through his chest. Never mind. I can't bring myself to speak of it. And I don't think it's my imagination that his arm tightens around me ever so slightly. Eventually the pain and fever subside enough that I fall asleep. I sleep through the night, and when I wake up, I'm no longer in Bahadur's arms. How do you feel? He seems to be returning from a scavenge pack full of berries and mushrooms. Go ahead and eat. They're safe. We tuck into a modest breakfast. Excuse me. The swelling in my ankle has gone down, and the pain has dulled to a weak pulse that might just be from where Bahadur's knife cut me. I might seem to be fine, either way. Either way, he managed to extract the... Either he managed to extract the venom, or it was never deadly to begin with. Do you think that you're able to walk? Yeah, I can do it. Are you sure if the pain... It doesn't hurt anymore, it's just sore. Oh, good. Didn't I tell you it'd be fine, my lady? He's clearly desperately relieved, though he's pretending not to be. Before we move on, he tears a branch from the rest of the tree from the tree that we sheltered under last night and gives it to me as a walking stick. It does help me walk with my sore foot, and it definitely seems to make him feel better. You walk on, up and up. Eventually the air turns colder, the wind starts to bite, and we're no longer walking on the dry rock and dirt. Aren't you cold? My teeth chatter relentlessly. Bahadur looks the same as ever. Hot blood, my lady, no need to worry about me. I draw my cloak tighter about me and forge on. I'll find somewhere to rest. It's getting colder and colder. Our pace has slowed a great deal, my fault, and I'm not sure how much longer I can... Aha! Uh-huh. Bahadur finds a cave, and after checking it for wildlife, invites me inside. He sets about starting a fire while I rifle through his pack to find the blanket. Cocooning myself in it, I settle on the ground near where the first sputtering flames of fire are coming to life. Bahadur sits beside me, close but not touching. After last night, the distance feels deliberate. Bahadur. Are you alright? You're still not cold, are you? You'll warm up in no time. We never talked about it. Talked about what, my lady? That night, with my aunt and in the bedroom. My lady, there's no need. I have to apologize. Why? For what she did. For what we let her do. It was a long time ago, and you were a child. But I'm still sorry. No, stop. He turns his face to me, and the look on it is every bit as heartbreaking as it was 10 years ago. You have nothing to apologize for. I'm the one who should be ashamed you saw something terrible because of me. What? Does he really believe that? I should have been more careful. You should have never seen that. How long had she been bringing you in there? My lady, it doesn't... Please don't say that it doesn't matter. If you don't want to talk about it, that's fine, but please don't say that it doesn't matter. I had been performing private duties for your aunt for some time. And after that night, never again. His eyes, until now darting about, unable to meet mine, suddenly fixed right on me. Never again. Do you believe me? Yes. Good, that's good, thank you. The guilt written all over his body is baffling. He is a victim. She told you to do those things. It is not your fault. None of it. He can't deny it. It was a long time ago, my lady. Can we please leave it in the past?
Oh! I'm sorry, I'm just so sad for him. It's some heavy stuff, man. Bahadur looks weighed down with misery. I'd wanted to apologize or to convince him he didn't need to shy away from touching me. I'd wanted to reassure him, but I think I may be making him feel worse. I'm not sure. I think I should have mercy, but on the other hand, I'm gonna try this. Bahadur, I promise that you will never have to do something like that again. No one will ever force you to do anything you don't want to do ever again. Do you understand? We should get some sleep. Right. We settle down to sleep in silence. A thought has started to unfurl in my mind. I don't mention it out loud. It's new and fragile, but it's something that refuses to leave me. Once we reach Umar, where the Jinn have been emancipated, I could make Bahadur a free man. People like my aunt or uncle or even me. We could never hurt him again. But then I would be alone in the world. But I can't be so selfish. But I don't know if I could survive on my own. I fall asleep with these circular thoughts chasing themselves around in my head. Yeah, you definitely have to let him go. The next day, we make good time. Bahadur soon finds a trail leading us down another side on the mountains. Over the next couple of days, we manage to leave the snow behind, along with the steep, rocky paths, until Bahadur says it won't be long until we're free of the knives. I can't wait to leave them behind us, along with the lingering, painful memories that Bahadur and I both still carry. I let them rot up here. Chapter 4. We're gonna go on for a little more. We're gonna make it an hour video. I just want to keep going. We've been walking through the farmland below the site of the knives for a while now. The new scenery and easygoing makes the journey quite pleasant. So, are we heading for Dujara? That's right. That's where we'll get the ship to Umar? Precisely. I'm full of questions, I can't help it. Ever since leaving the mountains, my spirits have been soaring. Bahadur, for his part, is very indulgent.
What do you think Dajara will be like? I'm not sure, my lady. Sia is the only human city I have ever known. I know what you mean. I, too, can't quite imagine how a small port town would look. But it's fun to try. It gets darker, our pace slows. Bahadur would never say it, but I know he must be just as hungry as I am, not to mention tired. So very tired. If we make it to Dajara tonight, we can rest there. That will be better than camping out in the wilderness for another night. I suppose I agree. We fight on through the hunger and exhaustion and keep walking. Figures begin to take shape in the distance. I blink my blurry eyes, but can barely see them. Stop! I hiss at Bahadur and grab his arm, tugging him off the road to the side. My lady, what? Shh, look! We hunker in some bushes, keeping low and quiet. As they grow closer, I see them for what they are. Small patrol of soldiers bearing the colors of Sia, and this is why you always hide. Do you think they even came this way? Where else would they go? Maybe they're still in the desert somewhere. Yeah, they could be anywhere. Captain Hamza think they'll head this way. You want to tell him he's wrong, you go ahead. I just think it's a waste of manpower is all, sending this many patrols out down one road. They pass, oblivious to us. Once they're far enough away, Bahadur nudges me into action. We hurry along the many patrols the soldiers mentioned, ringing in my ears. As we approach a farm, Bahadur veers away from the road and heads to a large, silent barn. The doors open at a crack and we slip inside. It's too dangerous to be out there tonight. I nod, fear keeping me silent. Bahadur settles by the door, keeping it cracked open the tiniest bit, looking out intently. As the adrenaline starts to fade, the tiredness returns. Bahadur, aren't you tired? Come and lie down. That's very kind, my lady, but I'm not tired. Liar. You sleep, I'll keep watch. I try to settle, but despite my exhaustion, the warrior won't leave me. What are we going to do? I will keep you safe, my lady. Do not doubt that. The resolve on his face is implacable. Impeccable? Implacable. How could I doubt? I don't know. And I will protect you. Thank you, my lady. He clearly doesn't take my words to mean much, but I think they make him happy. Trusting him to keep his word and keep me safe, I fall asleep. I startle awake as moonlight floods the barn. They found us! Except not. Bahadur is the one who opened the door. What are you doing? It's been quiet out there for some time. Stay here, my lady. I'll be back soon. What? No! I'll be careful, I promise, but I have to know that the road is clear. What if it's not? What if they see you? I can handle a few soldiers, my lady. Don't fret. Though if I don't return by morning, don't wait. Go on without me. Are you mad? I'm not abandoning you! I pray that you won't have to, but it may come to that. I'll be back soon. He gives me a short bow, then disappears into the night. Jiraiya, the whole free man thing, yeah, you have to make him stop calling you my lady. And you're gonna have to, tell him not to bow and stuff, that he's not below you anymore, and he never was. You should definitely tell him that. I know he's not gonna accept it, but you should tell him. I stay by the door for a long time, fretting. But eventually sleep comes to me once again. My next rude awakening comes courtesy of someone prodding me with a stick. I jolt up, but their stick pins me down by the forehead. A shadow looms above me that slowly takes shape. Who are you? Why are you in my barn? Where did you come from? I am so sorry for sleeping in your barn. I was tired and desperate and I've come so far. It's been such a long journey and Oh, you poor thing. She lowers the stick and I sit up. Now that I have a better look, I can see the stick wasn't just a weapon. This woman is blind. As we both hesitate considering our next actions, Bahadur returns. He sees me on the floor, sees the woman standing over me, the stick in her hands. The changing him is immediate. Step back! He closes in, snarling upon the old woman in an instant. Bahadur, stop! He does, claws barely an inch from the woman's head. His expression is torn between fury and confusion, but he obeys me without fail. The old woman turns to him. After a long moment, she turns back to him. "Is this your husband?" Bahadur stumbles, flabbergasted. We exchange a startled, unsure look. She assumed that he's human. That's rather perfect, actually. "He is my husband!" "Yes, this is my husband, Bahadur." "How lovely." "What? No, I'm just..." "I see. Complicated, is it? Well, allow me to introduce myself. I'm Anissa, and this is my farm." We apologize for trespassing. "Not at all. It sounds as though you've been through a lot." "Say, would you like to come in for breakfast?" Bahadur and I share another look. "Yes, please." "Yes, please." Aw, cuties, the lot of them. It felt strange sitting opposite Bahadur at a table as we ate, the first time we'd ever shared a table. Anissa fussed over the both of us. Her food was delicious, and she couldn't give us enough, constantly prompting us to eat more. At some point, the fat old tabby cat came begging, and she tried to shoo him away. Ignoring her, the cat leapt into Bahadur's lap and fell asleep immediately. Bahadur spent the rest of the meal barely moving for fear of disturbing him. Somehow, I managed to stifle my giggles. Oh my god, that's so cute. As we ate, Anissa mentioned some things about her late husband and how she lived alone at this farm now. I think she was a very lonely woman. Breakfast had settled, warm and comforting in my belly, and I now sit outside, perched on a fence just outside the cottage. Bahadur isn't too far away, splitting logs with an axe as I watch. Jesus. He had offered to repay Anissa in some way, so she had accepted gratefully. "It's turning colder, and I have no firewood," that's what she said, and Bahadur too much of a gentleman to let a lady go out in the winter. I simply sit and watch him work. I've no skill to offer myself. Back in Sia, I never felt useless. My use was in my looks and clothes and manners. Out here, those things mean very little, and I have nothing to give Anissa except my thanks. It does not sit well with me. Bahadur is relentless, never slowing even as he splits lock after lock. Bead of sweat rolls out from under his sleeve, trailing down his thick, straining arm. I swallow. "He's a good lad." Where did she come from? "It seems like the two of you have had a hard time of it lately." She has no idea. "I have other jobs that need doing, silly things that I can't do for myself anymore. Things that my Alphonse, God rest his soul, used to do. I don't suppose you and your gentleman would like to stay for a while." "Oh, wow, free bed and board, of course, and it would be little odd jobs here and there. And you would only need to stay for as long as you wanted, just until you've rested a little, found your feet." She blushes, looking awfully embarrassed to be even asking, but desperate to talk me into an yes. "Well, finished, ma'am." Bahadur comes over, wiping his wet brow on his forehead. "Oh, you marvel! Wait just one moment, I have some lemonade." The old woman bustles back inside the cottage, leaving me and Bahadur alone for a moment. "What did you see when you went out scouting last night?" "It's not good. Men from Sia were all over the road, and they set up a checkpoint before Tijara. They're stopping and questioning everyone who leaves the gates." At the gates. Bahadur frowns, and I can read his face. He's unable to think of a solution, and frustrated with himself for that. Anissa said we could stay. "What?" She said she'd like some help around the farm. In return, we can eat and sleep here for as long as we'd like. "The longer we stay here, the longer you are in danger." "There's danger regardless." "What would you choose, my lady?" She's very nice, this Anissa lady, so we'd definitely be bringing her into danger as well. And on the other hand, if she somehow ends up turning us in, like, that'd be bad too, so I would feel more comfortable leaving, but we do not really have a choice. I'd like to stay here. No, you know what? No. If it's what I like to do. Honestly, I'd rather be safe in Umar, but if we can't get there right now, perhaps it would be prudent to stay one more night. Yes. When Anissa returns, we ask for to stay for the night. She agrees happily and points Bahadur towards the chicken coop fence, which desperately needs fixing. Some time later, she comes looking for me. Is it just you, Jiraiya? Where is Bahadur? He finished the coop, so he had some... And then he said something about the fence out in the field needing to be patched up as well. Goodness me, that old fence has been a state in a long time for now. Not that there's much livestock to keep fenced in anymore. I wasn't going to mention it, but I had noticed the sorry state of the animals in the field. 1 horse, a few sheep, 2 cows, hardly a sign of a thriving farm. But my goodness, that Bahadur, what an absolute peach. So, Jiraiya, what do you say we make a hearty dinner for him tonight? Make dinner? I've never cooked anything in my life, never so much as peeled my own fruit. I'm gonna admit ignorance. Actually, I don't know how to cook. Really, bless me, what kind of palace did you come from? She doesn't know. She can't know, but it still unsettles me. Anissa gives me the task of peeling the vegetables, and I feel strange in my hands, but I get to work. When dinner is ready, we bring it out to eat on the patio, just outside the patio, outside the cottage. Bahadur's eyes widen with delight when he comes back to such an impressive spread. I feel proud and happy to have contributed to even a tiny part of it. This is amazing, ma'am, thank you. You should thank Jiraiya too, she was a great help. That's a lie, but a kind one. Really? Bahadur's eyes me, suddenly looking less pleased. I just peeled some potatoes, really. Bahadur takes my hands in his, turning them over. Did you cut yourself? Right, I did cut myself a couple of times. He finds a nick on my thumb and tuts. You shouldn't do things like that, my lady. Things like peeling vegetables? Of course this sounds ridiculous to Anissa, honestly. It feels a little crazy to me. More than anything, it makes me a little bit angry. For all of the things I've been through lately, this is where you draw the line? I rip my hands away to hide them by crossing my arms. I know he's only looking after me the way he's always done, but this time, it vexes me. My apologies. As I've said before, everything looks delicious. Yes, well, let's not let it get cold, then. Anissa sails smoothly through the awkward atmosphere with an implacable smile. The mood may be strange, but at least the food is delicious. I know I shouldn't have gotten angry at him, but, you know. Afterwards, Anissa mentions that she's prepared our bedroom. Bahadur balks at that. Just the one room? Yes, I'm sorry, I assumed you wouldn't mind sharing. The two of you are so close after all. I don't mean to insult your hospitality, ma'am, but it wouldn't be right for me to sleep in the same room as a young lady. If it's all right with you, I'd be perfectly happy in the barn for tonight. The barn? But it'll be awfully cold. Not at all, I would be quite comfortable. So I get the warm bedroom where he gets the cold barn? That's not fair, Bahadur. You really don't want to share a room? It's not a question of want, my lady. It's propriety. Propriety? So it would be all the same to you, then, if I took the barn, I mean. I'd thought to shock him into sense, or at least make him think. Instead, he laughs as if I'd told an amusing joke. The things you say. I go up to the room that has been prepared for me, all the while Bahadur remains downstairs, gently arguing with Anissa over whether or not he can handle the cold of the barn. So I'm to sleep here, while Bahadur exiles himself outside. He will not share a room with me. He laughs at the very notion of our sleeping quarters being switched. Yeah, fuck that. Save, first of all. I know I shouldn't push him too much because he's so used to it, but the things I say, eh? I grab the quilt out of the bed and head back downstairs. My lady, did you need? The barn sounds lovely, Anissa. Please show Bahadur to his room. I walk past them with my nose pointed to the ceiling. Bahadur follows me to the barn, protesting all the way. I ignore him and lie down, burying under my quilt, and close my eyes without even entertaining an argument. Finally, Bahadur sighs and lies down beside me. Fine, I suppose there is enough room for both of us in here. Brat. Sorry, I can't see you properly through the dark, but I'm sure that he's smiling. That was such a, what's that? Unflattering laugh, I'm sorry. Right, this is a good place to end the episode. This is a ton of fun. Hope you guys are enjoying as well. I will see you in the next one. Bye!